Hello, hello, hello. We are here together, and I'm Robyn.
And I'm Gil, and this is Rockin the Love. Woohoo! You guys ready to go today? We are going to have some fun, right?
Right.
Okay.
So,
Good afternoon, Shay. Thanks for being with us.
yeah, we're together again. It's been a crazy, crazy time. For those of you that don't know, we are married and living in different states, but this has been a particularly crazy time where we have been together and not together and literally together apart for 24 hours and then back together, and we're just all over the place. So I'm sure you'll hear more about those escapades, but we are trying to move households to different parts of the country, and that is no easy task, y'all. Right? I'm serious. So how was your week? Our topic today is time. Time after time.
Time after time.
And if that makes you want to break into song, just do it right now, because everyone does.
Time after time. Okay. She didn't mean me, just so you know.
All right. So how's your week? And what made me say time was it's so crazy. I'm like, week. What constitutes a week? When was that?
Yeah.
My time is like all blended together.
Yeah.
So how was your week, though?
My week was really good. Gosh, after we finished the show last week, you showed up on my doorstep that night, and we left the next day to go lead and be participating in a retreat with the Rio Grande CSL community, and that was really fun. So we were busy all weekend, and Monday we had one day to sort of recover, but I was catching up on things, and we were having a nice time finding things in Albuquerque we didn't know about. And boom, I was on a plane on Tuesday morning in here, and you were on a plane this morning in here.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. It's so amazing how you can be in one city like at 5 a.m. and another one at 7, like hours away, like worlds away. So this is what prompted our theme for the week, just wondering, thinking about time, and is it an illusion? Does it exist? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And how to manage it and how to make more of it and all of those good things. And I know Shay will have some ideas on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So if you're out there and you're listening and you want to participate with us, we'd love to have you do that. Just put your name and comment in the chat and let us know where you are and where you're calling from and all of those good things.
Plus, it's a good week to do time because it's
daylight savings time.
Yeah, the departure of daylight savings time this week. So, wow. Well, we're going to suddenly have an extra hour from, where does that come from?
It's interesting. Well, when I was coming in this morning on the plane, we were talking about, are we going to get to see the sunrise? And it was dark, like the whole way. I mean, we got in like 10 to 7 this morning. It was still dark. I was like, where is the sun?
Huh. It's interesting. I got some great sunrise pictures yesterday from the plane.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, you must have a little cloud cover.
Don't know.
So there you go.
So that's our week. So my week has been good. It was fun to be there. It was great to be with the community there in Albuquerque, and it's moving. Moving is quite the experience. I'm imagining that most people have done it. However, if you haven't, don't. Don't just.
It's not required.
It's not. Yeah, you don't need to experience it. I mean, it's just so interesting. And I think back to the days like, the college days or whatever, where you could put almost everything in a carload or two, and it's like, what happened, right? No, but it's like
we can't get stuff to give away into a carload or two.
It's crazy. It is crazy. And it's so much stuff. And then when I was in New Mexico this week, yesterday we went to I went with a friend to the Indian Cultural Center, and we went into the gift shop, and I was like, Don't want anything, don't buy anything, don't buy anything, don't want anything. I had to keep saying it though, because I'm looking, going, oh, this is so cute. And it'd be so nice to put up like ABQ, Albuquerque type Indian things at your house and placemats. I'm like, don't want anything. No, I have placemats somewhere. Somewhere in this house, placemats exist. I don't have to have the ones with the Indian design on them. But I was just watching myself and watching how consumerism plays a part in my life.
Absolutely.
Because I pretty much everything in there I wanted. And what I realized in this moving trip is how much little stuff I have. Like, what are all these little things? And I'm not a tchotchke person. I'm not somebody that puts little things up on the mantle or any of that. Apparently, I put little things in drawers because I keep finding little things. And I'm like, what happened? Where did these come from? We're hoping that we've learned our lesson. We'll see. Anyway, it's time.
Hope springs eternal, as they say.
That was good news that hope is springing eternal, but we have even better news. Oh, Shay says, just don't. I feel you, sister. Just look at it. Admire its beauty and move on. Whew. Okay, moving on. Good news. You have good news this week?
I do have a little bit of good news. Okay, so something I actually never even thought of this, but it makes total sense that there are various groups that have gotten together, and one way of supporting people is to help clear up their debt. And rather than paying off debt for someone, they literally go to the companies and buy the debt, just like debt collectors do. And they buy the debt, and that gives them the right to seek to collect on that debt. But the original debtors, the original people, just get whatever they get paid from the other company. So in this case, an organization raised about $10 million and purchased about 3,000 different students all their loans from school.
Wow.
And they bought it for a penny on the dollar, and then they're not going to try to collect it. They just forgave it. So all of these people, $10 million worth of student debt was canceled by a private organization of people working together to purchase it. Isn't that cool?
It's very cool. So if I had a debt, would I know that it got paid off, or?
Oh yeah.
So they just.
I think so. I think you would know. Just like they let you know that, such and such debt company, wants you to pay them now, and they're giving you a great deal. I'm guessing they send a note out that says such and such group has purchased your debt and you no longer owe any money. Wow. Pretty cool, huh?
It is pretty cool. So I have a good news story too. And that is that in a millionaire, he sold his company for 8 figures to a competitor, and he is using his profit to build a community of tiny homes for those who need it most. So he's built 99 tiny homes to cut homelessness in his community, and he even provides jobs on site.
Wow. So he helps folks out to get back on their feet as well.
Mm-hmm. And so
which is what we say needs to happen.
Right. He's building like one tiny home every 4 days. And he's creating these communities, and he's also teaching people there. I mean, he's like, there's a coffee bar and things like that. He's giving people jobs to work there and to learn those skills. And, some people say, no, we shouldn't bunch those people all together, that should be separate. But whatever you think, it doesn't really matter. I mean, this is how he's doing it. And he's invested over $4 million of his own money to the project. And he's gotten grants and things like that. And that's his goal, is to just keep doing that. And the homes have everything. that like a full service kitchen and living room, bedroom, bathroom, deck, solar panels on the roof, and it's cute. You could, it's painted well and all those good things. So
Yeah, unlike some of the tiny home solutions I've seen, which are basically a shed with a bed in them.
right.
But these are real homes, which is cool. Very nice.
Yeah, and I mean that's part of his thing is he wants it to be aesthetically pleasing and really be a home where people can, want to be and come visit and have your friends over for a cup of coffee or whatever needs to be done. I mean to feel like you're present to your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that is the story. I see that Myrna's out there. Hola Myrna, bienvenidos. And thank you, Shay, for commenting. Yeah. God, I don't want to go back there. Yes, an addiction. I got it. So we're going to talk about time. That's what we're talking about. And I know all you out there, especially Myrna, being a parent and having a child and a husband, we're talking about time. Is it an illusion? How do you manage it? Can you make it grow? All of those good things. So
where does it go? That's my question. Just where the heck does it go?
Good questions. So anyway, all right. Oh yeah, Shay, good idea. So thank you so much. tinycastlehomes.com. We'll have to check that out. So right after this message on New Thought Media, we will be talking about time. So get back here in time. We'll see you right here. And we are back. I am Robyn.
And I'm Gil, and this is Rockin the Love, and we are the first Wednesday of November. This is November 1st, All Souls Day, All Saints Day. Right?
True. Yep.
And
go ahead.
Well, I just want to do a quick shout out. In fact, it is the day that my father made his transition. Woo!
A lot of years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say 14 years ago or something. But I am thinking of him specifically this week because I'm doing a whole lot of packing and organizing, which I learned mostly from him. So there you go.
So this one's for you, George. So time. It's time. Time. What is time? What is time? Does it exist? Already we went away, and already Shay has got us kicked off. She says time doesn't exist. The only reason any kind of time tracking is, or because of the seasons, knowing when to plant and when to harvest. Otherwise, doesn't matter. We made it up.
Well, it was that in the train schedule, Shay. But even that I find fascinating because literally different towns had different times, and then when they had trains, they had to figure out how to coordinate the time because they could be very different depending on how they decide, how people that there decided it would work.
Yes, well, there's so much about time. I mean, I always say time is an illusion.
Right.
I always say that, and I know Albert Einstein said that, and I know that people agree, and then they disagree. They definitely say yes, definitely say no.
Well, some of us say that just time is elusive. We don't we can't keep up with it.
It's true. It's true. Rev Kev, if you're out there, we'd love your input too, because we know you have something to say. So, and train schedule that made her Shay laugh.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people we talk to nowadays say that time is speeding up. What do you think about that, Myrna and Shay, everybody out there?
Well, how could that be? How could time speed up? Except that we were just looking at the fact that time has changed. The way we look at time and think about time radically changed when Albert Einstein attached it to the theory of relativity, and it became something that could morph and change depending on where someone was and how fast you're moving through the universe, and what you're doing would shift how time happened. So I think that plays into it.
Well, and I would actually say as well that we've speeded up. We've speeded up. We've sped up. We've sped up with technology, with everything. Like it's so often that we feel like we're trying to keep up with ourselves. Like I don't know about you all out there, but like even let's just take something simple like email. Like, it used to be a joy to go to the mailbox. I mean, yeah, not when there was bills, but you still look forward to it. There was a card, there was something, Now it's like going to email. It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming, and it leads you down that rabbit hole.
Yes, it's become very easy to decide that you need to say something to someone. Whereas if you had to get out a pen and paper, write it down, put it in an envelope, get a stamp, and put it out in the mailbox, you thought about it before you decided you were going to do it. Or you saved up your stuff and put it all in one. I remember as a kid getting, we got reel-to-reel tapes from my grandparents, like every month or something, and they talk and tell us about what was going on and everything on the tape. But it's it was a production.
Sure, it's like a Instagram now, or a TikTok video.
Yeah, right. Which you do in 3 minutes.
Well, yeah, because nobody has the attention span to sit and watch what they did back when your grandparents did it.
Right, or even just to listen.
Yeah. Well, you can't just listen. People don't just listen anymore. They have to have a visual with it, right? Yeah, I mean, we're so conditioned to so many things like that. So Shay says cycles are important. Oops. The moon phases, ocean tides, etc. Getting our cues from nature.
Yeah, what's fascinating about that, Shay, is that while that's all true, I think now we fight with that because we have, we don't have to wait for spring to get spring vegetables. We don't have to wait for, fall to get fall vegetables because we've figured out and we do things in such a way that we either are able to hang on to it, we're able to ship it from a different part of the world, we're able to do something.
We're able to hybrid it,
which jumps over that. So people's connection to that nature and natural cycle is severed at some level. We're not all as connected as we once were. And that of course changes our perception of time because, it's kind of like when you go to Las Vegas and there's no clocks. It's that, you don't know what time it is because as long as you stay inside in that manufactured environment, it's always daytime or it's always nighttime or it's always whatever it is. And it doesn't matter what's really happening.
And Shay says, that's a conversation about technology, Gil, which is so intertwined with the concept of time.
Yeah. Yep. Time and tech.
Wow. Hi, John. Thanks for joining us.
Yes. Well, I was thinking, Shay, when you say that, the other side of that is for those of us that aren't as well trained or whatever, tech also has the feeling of stealing our time because you can get so tied up in trying to figure out how to make it work, how to make this thing that's so simple work, and those kinds of things. And so we've been wrapped up in a whole different kind of thing. And we've certainly gotten wrapped up in the speed with which we can communicate, and suddenly, we've got emails and stuff going on. I put an ad on Craigslist and got a response at 4 a.m. because somebody saw it.
But,
They were up looking and they just, sent their response.
Well, that's interesting that you say that because it speaks to nowadays, like people are like, oh, I can't text at this hour, or can I text at this hour, or I can't call at this hour. When in reality, it's like the other side of that is people go, yeah, you can text or call any hour. I turn my phone off when I'm done, or I put my phone in the other room, or I do this. It's like we don't have the same boundaries anymore.
Right.
Like it used to be your house phone went off, period. And that was if it went off in the middle of the night, you were worried.
Right. I mean, if it rang after 9 p.m., it either had to be somebody you really knew or there was something going on. Yeah. So what did Myrna say?
Myrna says, I personally do not like to think that time is an illusion. For me, life is not an illusion. We experience the concept of time in the human reality. We can deny it, but what I can claim is that all life happens in the perfect God's time, phase, process, evolution, etc.
You know what, Myrna, I think that a lot of times we get hung up in words. And I agree with you. I sometimes go, what do you mean it's an illusion? I mean, how can that be? Or people talk about, everything is a product of our own making, our own looking, our own creation. And I go, well, yeah. And how come all of us can talk about the same experience? Those kinds of things. So I think sometimes that idea that things are just an illusion, it's like they may not be what has to be. They may not be the way it needs to be. But often we have some kind of experience of the world that we have choices then of how it's going to affect us. And one of those things is time. Does it become a master to us, that's always telling us what to do, when to do, and how to do it? Or does it become our friend? And do we use it to find ways to have fun and do things, or connect with people or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't see illusion. I mean, when Myrna says that, I get the feeling that somehow an illusion feels not real to her. And I guess that that's probably somewhat of the definition of the word. However, I don't see it as not real. I mean, I see I see the illusion as not really know as it being a mysterious thing that I don't really know how it works, and so it is elusive, like you said. Like it goes. It's not always the same. I can't say that one thing will happen the same way all the time. It's like there's the illusion that everyone should stop at the red light. Because that's the rule and that's the law, and I don't feel like it's bad. So for me, the illusion happens more like I'm going to use this weekend as an example when a friend went with me to Albuquerque and we went to this retreat, and everything that showed up in the retreat spoke to something that was happening in her life. Like specifically, like she looked at somebody who reminded her of somebody, and the person that was stood up and started talking about their issues, and they were the same as the issues of the person that she reminded them of. And it's like, how does that happen? And then all of a sudden, like conversations came up to support things that she was going through that would have never happened at this retreat.
Right. There was no logical reason.
There's no
for that
logical
to have
reason.
come up. Yeah.
No basis. And so it's like that. It's like that magical, and I know we don't like to use that word insights of mind and new thought either, because it's not magical. It's, but for me, it feels magical in some ways. And and for me, God feels magical. My version of God, spirit, the divine, the universe feels magical. And so that feels somewhat like an illusion on some level, because here we are also believing in this one God, and each one of us would describe it differently. So here's this thing that we call God, and yes, we can go, oh, the flowers and the sky and the ocean. Yeah, okay. And it's still, it means something different to all of us. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So Shay says, the clock that we made up is actually based on the Earth's rotation and our rotation around the sun. So in that sense, it is not an illusion.
Right. And I think maybe the illusion piece comes in is that we sometimes connect time to specific things happening or specific way something's supposed to happen. A particular timeline on which things are supposed to happen. And so something comes to mind. A little over a year and a half ago, we attended Tony Robbins' workshop thing, and it was all on Zoom, all on virtual. And he told the story of when COVID hit, and he realized that he was going to have to go virtual or not go at all, right? And he went and said, this is what I want. This is the technology. I want to be able to talk to people individually. I want everyone to be able to be involved. I want, And his company says, yeah, we can do that. And he says, okay, so how long will that take? They said 6 months. And he said, no, I need it in 6 weeks. And they said, we can't do that. And he went and found somebody who could. The illusion was that you would have to have more time to be able to develop that, and create it and make it work. But that was just somebody's idea. It wasn't necessarily the truth of how it could happen, because somebody else had the idea that they could do it in 6 weeks.
Well, and that's great. And that leads me to Peter's quote this weekend. That Henry Ford, inventor of the Ford, said, if I had asked them what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. So it's the illusion that there's one way to do something on one level.
Right. And when we see past the illusion of time, we can open up to what's perhaps would seem outside of normal possibilities, outside of something we've seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a lot of what the whole spiritual journey is about, is breaking out of the tyranny of what is. I mean, the tyranny of not so much what is, but what only can be. Like it must be this. If this, then that. It's kind of the computer model. If this, then that. But as we expand, we realize that there's a lot of if this, then that. There's a whole lot of then that possibilities that we haven't, that we won't necessarily explore all the time.
Right. Okay. Yes. So, yes, I was gonna put a quote up, but I'm not going to.
Okay.
I'm gonna instead share what Myrna said. We in Science of Mind said there is no time and space in God, and yet, with the example you just shared, I am experience. It's an experience of the perfect time and space was created in your friend's life. Isn't this a paradox?
Oh, a paradox. Oh man, Myrna, you're just on it, aren't you?
She's on a break from homeschooling her child.
Is that what it is? So
she's in education mode.
She's got to run her brain, got to do some other stuff. Well, you're right. And what is a paradox except a place where we realize that it's not one or the other, but that these things exist at the same time. And that there's perhaps another way of moving through them than what we think. We think, oh, you must turn left or right. Well, maybe you can go a different direction, maybe slightly right, maybe you turn, I don't know.
Yeah, and it speaks to what Shay says. She says, okay, if you want to get really technical and out there, time actually is not linear. According to some scientific theories, it's parallel.
Parallel? That's got to mess up people.
But
how do you park in that kind of time? Wow, that's interesting. I would like to know more about those theories. I mean, I know that we talk about how it's all happening at once, and the only way I've been able to conceptualize that for myself is to sort of have this idea that we can get so far back that God has, that Spirit has such a vast vision of everything that everything can be taken in at once. And therefore it's all happening at once. And yet we experience it as linear. It's stacked. Oh my gosh. Okay. Fascinating stuff, isn't it?
It is. It is. So I'm going to share a quote that time you enjoy wasting is not wasted time.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole different way of looking at time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is that true? Is that true? Because I think when I think about like how do you get like some of the question is like how do you get time back? Or how do you create more time in your life?
Mm-hmm.
And time you enjoy wasting is not wasted time, because some of the things that people say is, in order to get more time in your life, look at, how much time do you spend on your emails and how much time you spend on the internet or watching TV or things that usually start to fall into the wasted time category.
Mm-hmm. And it's really not about wasted time. I think that's exactly right. Time you enjoy, quote, wasting is not wasted time. And the thing is there that if we're enjoying something, how can that not be of value? And when you say wasted, that indicates that there's no value there. So I think the thing for me is, quote, time that I feel I've wasted is time where I've not put in what I needed to put in order to get something of value out for myself. Like, I could go out and go for a bike ride around down by the river and see the pretty stuff and get my exercise, etc. Or I could sit on my butt and watch TV. Now, both of those could be considered wasted time, but the one that for me feels more like wasted time is because I just sat, and so that wasn't of value to me either, where the other one was somehow refreshing, and motivating.
Yes.
Perhaps I'm in the weeds, but
no, I think, it's all relative. I think that again, it's our perception, right? I mean,
right.
If you sit and watch TV and at the end of that, you're refreshed or nourished or enlightened, or
right.
you've learned something, or you've
right.
not thought about something for that hour, and that helps you, that supports you. It's all that becomes about value, right? What the values we put on things. If you're saying which has more health benefits.
Well, yes. And what I was saying was, just for me, for instance, I would compare those two and feel like one was more of wasting time, particularly if I just did it just to do it. If I was watching a particular thing, something I was interested in, something I wanted to learn, that would be different. But sometimes it's just like you find yourself doing something and then pretty soon you're like, well, I didn't really want to do that. And yet now I did it, and now it's an hour later,
Right. And I think that's why, Gil and I used to do this system called Pomodoros. And what it was is that you spent 20 minutes of time on
25 minutes.
25 minutes of time on something. And then you took a 10-minute break. Is it 10 minutes?
It's 5.
You took a 5-minute break. Okay. We're only talking about time.
Yeah, that's
okay.
right. Yeah. So it doesn't matter.
Anyway, but you get the idea. So there was a space, and but what was fascinating about it is that when you really put it into those modules, or when I really put it into those modules, then I knew, like, in that 20 minutes, you write down or you tell each other or whatever, what you're going to do. So you have a commitment to that. So I knew that if I got on my computer, I was going to get totally sidetracked or something else, which is what happens to me when I'm trying to get things done by myself. I've got a list of things to do, and then I'm like, well, let me just see if an email's come in, and then I'm off and running, right? So, but the point being, like, that by focusing on what you really want
to accomplish, you focus on whatever it is and you stay with it. It doesn't matter if you get it done in that 25 minutes, you stay with it for that whole time. And if you get it done in that time, then you go on to the next thing you have to do and you start on that. And then at the end of the 25 minutes, you get up, you take a break, you move around, and then you come back and sit down. And you can do that several different times. But it gives you, it gives one focus on what they're doing, right? And it also, you end up making a commitment to yourself to stay on topic. It's like sometimes, when one has a job or whatever that they do from home, they don't need to, anyway, where they're not set aside hours where they're, quote, working. Sometimes it's harder because, I remember there's some jobs that I've had where I go to work and I focus on work and I don't spend a lot of time talking to anyone else or doing my chatting or whatever. And then at the end of the day, I get up and I leave and I'm done. And I don't do a lot of work when I'm after work, I'm not thinking about it, putting it together, doing anything. And so when we focus on one thing, sometimes we can be more productive. And I guess that's what it's about. And being more productive can give the illusion of more time, because we feel as though we have completed things and therefore we don't have something pressing, or we have the space to work on something else that's pressing, or something else that we want to do.
Well, I think it's kind of like moving. It's kind of like packing. It's like when you clear off a shelf or you put everything in the box and you get it out of the way, then there's that spaciousness
Right.
to be able to move through it. But Myrna asked, how do I create more time? And I think there are ways that we create more time. And I was thinking about this with the topic of the show as well, like creating more time in our life and creating more time in our relationships. And obviously, it's always going to be a 24-hour day. We're not going to get 25 hours. It's not about, we're not doing any spiritual mojo here and adding time to the illusion that doesn't exist. We are talking about using the time we have more in a more manageable and valuable way, and creating space for things that you really want to accomplish or to have happen. Myrna says, my son tells me, Mom, you are wasting time. This phrase only comes when I am not paying attention to him at the time he wants. Well, yeah, that would.
So how many of us use time against those persons we're in relationships with? I need you to pay attention to me right now. I don't care if you're at work. I don't care if you're with someone else. You need to pay attention to me right now.
What's the problem with that?
Yeah, I know. I don't know. It's just,
you can't have it both ways. There's either no time, and so therefore it has to always be the right time, or there's time and there's a time for everything, just like your parents used to say. There's a time and place for this, right? I mean, how do you balance that?
Yeah, there seemingly be in some kind of paradox there. Yes, indeed.
Shay says, love language, quality time, please. Yeah, love language. I really want to do a show with love language. Thanks for saying that, Shay. Because I think it's true. It really speaks to it because, so our love languages, for me, if Gil called me and said, you're not giving me time, I need time, I would make time in that moment to make time to hear it. Whereas if Gil hears it, I'm going to speak for you because we're married. But if my experience of you is, if you hear it, and if it's at the wrong time, like you're at work or you're busy with something, then that just stresses you out and puts you over the edge because you can't fix it in the moment because you know that you don't have time right there. And you start go down that slippery slope of, okay, I'm not doing it right. I've done it wrong and I don't know what to do right now. And I can't do it because, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Score. At least if I speak for him, I'm right.
Yeah. I mean, it's not always like that, but yes, that is a general thing that can happen. And it's been something that is constant movement of realizing when things need to be fixed and when they don't. But yeah, when I'm in Albuquerque and you call me to tell me the car's leaking again, and I feel like, what, you know what I mean? I mean, it's just a feeling.
I do know what you mean, but then again, you go to that place of the car's leaking again, and what can I do? I'm here. Whereas I'm like, oh no, the car's leaking. I want someone to go, oh my God, okay, all right, it's okay, it'll be okay. Here's what you need to do.
And I'm thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen? It's a disaster.
Right? So it's like we each run our own story. Is this that? But is that about time?
Well, it depends. How much time do we spend on it?
It's about the time to talk about it. But yeah, but I think it's all relative because that's a whole other aspect of time. When is the right time to bring things up?
Mm-hmm.
We just leapt into a new.
Well,
category.
we talk about, having the ability to know when to approach certain subjects. And I don't mean with people who we're trying to, keep from exploding or whatever, but I just mean what's a better opportunity to present something. We talk to kids about, pay attention to the cues. Where are people at? You don't walk into a room and yell, "Oh, let's have popcorn," when they're, having kind of a serious conversation. It's just not the right time. But then when is the time? What do we mean by the right time?
I don't know. I want to go back to how do you create time? Because I think there's some specific things that we can do, like really, really looking at um, what we want to get from our time. What we want to accomplish. Like, I know sometimes I'll have a list of things to do, and I'll be like, oh, I'm just gonna watch a show or two
Or five.
or three. Oh, look at me binge watching this show. I mean, so, but like, how do you manage that, and how do you, yeah, create the space to really accomplish?
So
And
that, pardon me, I think that's the cue. The thing is, it's not so much about creating time, it's about utilizing time. It's about how we do it. And again, this goes back to the idea of wasted time. It's not wasted time if you enjoyed it, if it was something you needed to do. If you need to unwind and then you are more productive after that, then that's not wasted time. But sometimes we can use things that aren't really that important to us, or important to whoever we have some relationship with, to a partner or a work thing. We can use time to avoid something in that. So we don't want to face it, so we push it off in time, and pretty soon it gets to a point in time where we have fewer and fewer opportunities to have an effective outcome, to have a positive outcome, because we've pushed it off.
right. So again, I'm going to go back to this because I think creating time for ourselves, creating time for our partners, creating times for our kids, all of that is like, I think the first step to doing that is really setting up your priorities and really figuring out what it is you want and you want to accomplish. And especially because I think, like, in a relationship, I know that you and I have had this discussion multiple times just about prioritizing our relationship, because we both get very excited for each other and happy that you're doing 10,000 things at your center and I'm doing 10,000 things within the organization, and I'm planning this, that, and the other retreat, and you're doing this, and it's like, okay, see you. And how do we find time? And especially living in different places, I think our time is really sacred. So how have we maneuvered that? And don't say poorly.
I think we've done a fairly good job of maneuvering it, but I know people that are much more what I would call protective of their time. Like, I sent someone an email and got back an auto reply that says, "I don't respond to emails on Fridays," or whatever day it was.
Right.
And it's like, oh, so they make it a point. I'm not going to look at my stuff, so don't plan on me saying anything.
Right.
And that's to create the space, I'm guessing, in one's life to do those things that one enjoys, which is not wasting time. It's utilizing it to rejuvenate oneself.
Mm-hmm. Shay says it really depends on your style, getting out the calendar or going with the flow. I do both, allowing God to lead me by intuition. No wasted time. That doesn't exist either. That's a perception.
Unless there's a deadline. Yeah. Deadlines are interesting sometimes.
I just heard in my head when unless there's a deadline and it doesn't exist unless that's a perception. I'm like, illusions, perceptions, deadlines, time. Oh my, yeah.
Well, and the other thing is, the other side of that is like when we worked with our mentors Jesse and Charla, and they talked about, if you plan to do something, you want to put something together and offer something. Like they had multiple different things. One of them was put a date on the calendar and advertise it, and then you'll have to be ready for it. And another one was pre-sell a book. You can create a cover and put blank pages in it and pre-sell it. Then you got to create it.
Well, but that's all about time too.
Right. That's what I mean. It's about
yeah.
It's about how we use it to force to push ourselves to move forward, to not, quote, waste time, because we don't have time to waste time. Whereas we have an illusion that we have, there's really nothing that nothing in just basic life that concerns having well, that's not true. I was going to say that there's nothing in natural life that forces us to be aware of the time, except when we're dealing with the natural time and the seasons, and knowing when we have to have, a supply of wood for the fire, and when we have to have, those kinds of things. I think, but all that has sort of shifted.
Here's one of my favorite quotes. If you don't have time to do it right, when will you have time to do it over?
Oh my gosh.
John Wooden, basketball coach.
Do it right the first time.
Well, but that's just about time, too. It's, it's that perception of I gotta do it this way because I don't have enough time to do it that way. But then if that doesn't work out, you're still gonna have more time.
Hi,
Hello, Carol. Welcome.
He said, I just got here. Organization, planning the day before for the have-tos and doing as much of those as you can. Leaving room for remembering the sky, animals, and cool breezes. Yep.
Well, again, that's prioritizing what's important to you.
That's right.
So it's taking that, it's knowing that that's a valuable use of your time and that it's integral to who you are. And Myrna says, I agree with looking at our priorities, maybe saying no to the busyness of life. What matters the most? Looking at what brings joy and with balance. I enjoy talking with friends, yet I know I cannot spend all day talking with them. You could, Myrna, I bet you could. Anyway, as right now, I am enjoying listening to you and chatting, but after you, there are other things to do.
Right.
And I would say, a little presumptuous of me, but I'm going to say it anyway. Somehow you tuning in feeds you on some level. Just like for Carol, it's going out into the nature and the trees and the making time for that. For Gil, it might be riding his bike. And for you to sit with us for, an hour, 40 minutes or whatever, somehow, it sparks something, right? I hope that's what our show's doing. Sparking something.
Okay. All right. So we expect a lot of fires out there because we're just sparking it up. Oh, no. I made a bad joke. All right, everybody. She'll get over it. She still loves me. I know she does.
All right. We're going down a slippery slope. But Carol says she loves us two working together like this. Good, Carol. Good. Okay. Anyway, so time. So I just think that also you can really begin to cut and expand time, if you will, somewhat if you get your, it's like balance. If you get your if you know your priorities, you'll figure out where, to take something off the list. And like Myrna said earlier, not saying yes to so many things. And really looking at what brings joy and balance. I think that's so important.
Thank you, Shay.
Oh,
Says I love and value our time together. Thank you. That's sweet.
You.
We do too.
We do too. We love and value all of your time. We really do. And especially on a day like today where we had to stop cleaning out the garage. Come in. We're so glad you were here for us. So we really want to thank you for that. And I just want to send some love out. Whatever you celebrate, whether it's All Hallows Eve or Halloween or All Saints Day or Dia de los Muertos. It's a time really where the energy in the world is shifting, and what is it? Light is turning to dark, dark is turning to light. I get them confused.
Light is
to
moving
dark.
towards dark. We're a little past the solstice or the whatever. The middle one is equinox or whatever.
Yeah.
But it is that time of year.
Yeah.
The
And we
light
just
turns to
celebrate
dark.
all of our ancestors and that have gone before us and passed and gone over the veil, and send love and know that they too are sending love to us.
And if time is stacked, we're all experiencing this at the same time, right, Shay?
Okay. Yes. I know that, Shay. I know that. And it's an interesting thought.
I was saying, I mean, it all depends on how we look at it, but it's, part of why I believe we can have those who have, quote, passed on with us is because, in fact, it's all happening at the same time. It's just a matter of where our focus is.
They're still with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, take all of that out and you know what to do with it. Rock the love, y'all. We'll see you next week. Next week from a new location.
That's right. Rockin the Love. Have a great week.